Good morning, Lydia Smith.
Good morning.
Welcome to the podcast. As I said, I'm looking to get more women who hunt on this podcast, and you got a little bit of interesting story because you didn't grow up hunting, right? Like you,
Mm-mm.
yeah. So
Nope.
and you grew up in Idaho, correct?
Yeah.
So how so how did that? Were you surrounded? Did your family? No one in your family hunted?
No one I was around, no. I know like my grandpa on my mom's side, like he hunted a little bit, but I was never around him growing up. He either lived in Alaska or Kentucky. So I didn't even know he really hunted till like later. But I think more so I like living in Idaho, like you hear of hunting, you kind of know what it is. Like fishing game, all that good stuff. So I think like with me, it just kind of started. Um just because like I already love the wildlife so much and I've always loved the whole um Native American like lifestyle back then, how they were very self-sufficient and they hunted for their own food and they cared and respected every animal that they harvested and everything like that. And I always thought that was so cool and interesting. And I've always wanted to kind of like do that as well. And so that's always been something that I think that started my passion for hunting, like watching those shows growing up, the whole Western movies, and then just hearing about it here and there. So I think it just kind of like progressed as I grew, I guess. So
So when did you? So you're self-taught. So how did? What was your and you was it bow hunting? That's what you got into, and or was it gun, or how did you first start? What was your first hunt you went on?
so my first hunt was a rifle deer hunt right before I turned 18. So it was in October. And so luckily, I ended up harvesting a deer on the very last day of the season, but worked my tail end off, and it was a very hard year. Um, and I don't think I harvested an animal 3 or 4 years after that, but it was a rifle the first year, and I've always loved archery. I never had a bow. So the next year, I got a bow, started hunting. That was the first year I hunted elk, and that was it for me. That was
Oh
definitely my
yeah,
favorite. Never harvested, but it was really incredible. Um, and then going into the year after that, I started doing, I think that year I did a bear hunt, and then I did my elk hunt, and then a late archery deer hunt. I got my bear and I got my late deer. It was a doe, but no elk yet. So,
it's. I think I know what a heroin addict feels like when you go elk hunting because it's like
right.
you don't stop thinking about it. It's like a year round deal. It's so weird how you just I don't know. Maybe it's because they're so magnificent, such an animal,
Yep.
and you hear that bugle and you get a little excited when it's right on top of you. I mean, it's turkey hunting times 1,000. That's what it
Mhm.
really is like.
I agree. Like
So
I've never stopped thinking about it. So,
so did you have a so your family didn't hunt? Did you have a boyfriend or something that got you into hunting, or is that how it started? Like you were dating a guy and you were kind of interested in what he was, or was this just your own?
it was my own thing. So when I was actually 16, I saved up my money, went through the hunter's ed, everything on my own, like had my mom drive me to the freaking place to do field day and all that stuff. And um it was actually funny though, because I didn't really know what to do once I got my permit. I was like, okay, what now? Um, but no, like it's always something I've always wanted to do. So it was really hard, like trying to get out there and kind of start in a sense, because like it's really hard to figure that out when you don't have somebody to really teach you.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did just start out by like hiking and like exploring, and that's like so I actually started like shed hunting really before I like hunted. And so that was really fun because I started learning, the terrain, like kind of where the animals would be, even though it's completely different than like what they'd be like in the fall, but still like um so I started picking up antlers, and then I did have a friend take me for the first time I hunted to like show me the ropes, and that was super helpful. Hiked my butt off that day. It was great. So that kind of helped a lot. And then from there, I just kept going, kept learning. I would go, online research stuff. I'd go to expos to meet people, and I actually met. I can't remember what year it was. It was like probably the second year I got into hunting. I met Rocky Jacobson at a hunt
Okay.
expo, and I didn't know who he was. I had no idea. But he kind of taught me all these things about elk hunting, which was super amazing. And later down the road, I went on some hunts with him, which were super, super cool. And he definitely helped a lot in my elk hunting side of things. Um, so that was really, really fun. Yeah.
So did you, once you learned who he was and then have you met Corey? Have you gotten a chance to hunt with Corey too?
No, I haven't hunted with him. I've met him a few times. They're both super awesome people. Uh, I mostly just kind of communicated with Rocky. He kind of took me under his wing for a few years, which was super amazing. And I shot my first archery animal with him, which was a bear, which was super, super cool. And then I actually also ended up shooting my doe with him, like archery as well, which was super fun.
How do you like see that's something once I get out, I'm moving to Montana
Mhm.
and that's one thing. I've never hunted bear. I've never seen a bear out in the wild. I can't believe it's so strange. I've never seen a bear, but and you know, I've told this before, like my father growing up, oh, you can't eat bear. I was told you can't eat bear. And then whenever see pictures of people shooting bear, like why? I don't
Mhm.
get it. What? And now I understand it's like one of the best tasting game animals out there.
I was actually extremely hesitant to eat bear. Like, I was just like, I don't know about that. That's kind of weird. Like, I don't know. But once I got my bear, I turned it into breakfast sausage, and it's by far the best breakfast sausage I have ever had. And I haven't shot a bear since then, and that was a few years ago. And I think I might go again this spring just because it was just so freaking good. Like, and also like the population here is like doing more than well, so we have a lot of them here. But
Whereabouts do you live in Idaho? You live in Boise area or
no, I live more toward the east, so southeast, closer to the
okay.
Wyoming border. And
Okay.
so actually where I hunted though was up north. There's an insane amount of black bear up there. So
I hunted first last year was my first year hunting Idaho and I hunted the Bear River range. Yeah. You I think it was in 78. I don't know. It was really crowded. I can tell you that. It was
yeah, there's a lot of
it,
units like that here.
it was really crowded, really dry this year.
Hmm.
This year was a weird year.
Yeah, it was.
Um so how did so you got into now I understand like you're full go. You guide too now, right?
Yeah, so I don't think I will this year, but I have been for the last 2 years. So last 2 years I've been guiding.
In Idaho?
Utah and then New Mexico.
Oh, nice. How
Yeah.
I've never hunted in Mexico. How was that like? Because that's that's strictly everyone has a chance there, right? When you even residents or non, I mean, I guess the odds are better for residents, but when you apply, there's no, it's just a lottery. You get a chance, and then their bowls are
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. It's a super, super fun state. Like I enjoyed the heck out of being there. Freaking if you're in the right place, you see elk all freaking day. And that's what I mostly did was elk. So um I think it's a super fun state. You definitely have to, get lucky to draw where you can do like landowner tag stuff or something like that. But it was way fun there. Like I really enjoyed it.
So I understand too that um, you've got a little elk calling championships behind you as well. Now, did Rocky help you with that? Did he get you into calling and stuff?
Yeah, so when I met him at the expo, I was at their calling booth and I was like, well, that's super cool. Like I have always like mimicked animals growing up. Like I loved the sound of elk. And so like I walked up to their booth and they all started kind of like helping me and like showing me and they're like, hey, like blow on this call and I like do it. And they're like, oh, that wasn't bad. And then it was actually really funny. Rocky's like, okay, I'm gonna give you some calls and you have to practice every day, and in a month you're gonna go to the world's calling competition. I'm like, no, there's no chance I'm doing that. Like, no way. And he's like, yeah, you will. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. And so I practiced every day for a whole month, and I ended up going, and I ended up placing in first in the women's, which was super, super crazy. And then I've been doing it for the last, I think, 3 years. They didn't do it back in 2020 because of all the stuff. But yeah, so that I all learned mostly from Rocky, just practicing and then just studying the animals too, because there's a lot of sounds that elk make that I've experienced that are completely different from what people say they are. Um, but it's just all kind of, I guess, what you hear and what you want to freaking decide what is what. So, but I love the heck out of calling. It's one of my favorite things.
It is, yeah. It took me for I didn't really put much effort into it. Was a chuckle the hardest call for you to learn?
Yeah, and especially so because I don't have the diaphragm and like the bass is like guys do. And so chuckles are really, really hard for me. But I've kind of learned to work with them. I typically really won't use them though when I'm calling. Like in competitions, I do, but like when I'm actually hunting, I've never really needed to use one. Like I might do like a bark chuckle sometimes, but that's about it.
Yeah, I understand. I think it's just the challenge to learn how to do it, which
Hmm.
made me want, because I know you don't use it that much, but Corey put out a really good video on YouTube that he literally broke the call. I don't know if you watched it,
I
but
think I
he broke the call into steps. And I just did what he said. And I would literally, I'd be driving my truck, listening to the YouTube and putting it on rewind and trying to mimic what he did. And then next thing you know, all of a sudden I'm chuckling and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. So it's
it's
kind
all
of fun just to do it out there because just to keep it in practice. But yeah,
Mhm.
it literally, I learned from Rocky too on his video from him, not like
Mhm.
personally, but and then it took me forever to really commit to because I have a gagging reflex. So sometimes when you do that inhale and it's like you think you got it and then you're like trying to hopefully not choke, especially when I was driving. That was not smart sometimes. So yeah, I want to try the calling championships too.
It's fun.
Is it yeah, how did like and you only practice for 2 months, right? You said?
Well, the very first time I only practiced for a month. I'd only been calling for a month and then went to the competition. But other than that, I've been practicing, since then. So
That's awesome. That is
that
really
was
cool.
really cool.
I want to try that too. Once I get to Montana, I'm unleashing because I've missed out
Very
here in
good.
Texas. People like Texas, but I don't enjoy paying to hunt. That's not my
Oh
thing.
yeah.
So
Ugh.
yeah, there's no public land here. It really sucks.
Yep. That is really unfortunate.
And then your artistry too. Now, which came first, the art or the
Mhm.
hunting?
The art. So I've been drawing since I was little, since I could hold a pencil. That's just
Did
something
you
I've
al-
always done. Hmm?
did you always draw wildlife, or once you got immersed into the hunting and everything, you saw how beautiful the outdoor was? That's
So
when you
I think
really.
yeah, I think I started doing wildlife when I got into my early teens, just because like that passion really started to like grow for me. And so me and my family and my extended family, we all share this really big cabin up outside of West Yellowstone, uh, Montana, like right by Hegben Lake. Super amazing place. So I grew up seeing elk and buffalo and bears and freaking wolves and everything. And so I've always just been so connected to it personally. Um, so I think right around maybe 14, I just really started hammering like wildlife, drawing lots of deer and elk. But before that, I kind of just grew up drawing horses and like other random stuff because I was, a crazy horse girl probably. I still love horses to death, but that's kind of like what I started doing. And then I started moving into wildlife and really took off there. I really, really enjoy drawing wildlife now.
Do you base that off of, do you take pictures of the animals and then the ones you enjoy, like that's how you draw it, or do you go by visual? How does it work for
Yeah.
you?
So for me, like I'll see a picture in my head and like I'll sketch it out on paper. I won't like do anything super detailed. I draw the body and like the trees and everything I want it laid out. And if I need photo reference for like anatomy, I'll either go get my own photos or I'll get stock photos just to help me to make sure like the muscle is right, the alignment of the legs to the spines, right, just like all of that stuff. Um, but I will see an image in my head, throw it down, and then if I need to, I can use a photo of like an elk in a certain position that I just like can't really like I just don't want to mess up on, I guess. Just want to make it look as good as possible. So that's kind of how I do my art. But
Because I saw you drew a wild turkey and the feathers, right? Didn't you draw a tom I saw on Instagram
Yeah,
where, and you,
ago.
the feathers are pretty detailed, the
Yeah.
colors and because I mean, it's almost three-dimensional sometimes. They're like the way they're layered, those feathers. That was nice.
The nice thing about those two is like I can just hold some of the feathers in my hand and get the right lighting, turn it, see the colors. So like, okay, I think that's what I did with that one. It was like I wanted the sun kind of to be like hitting its front side, and you want the lighting to be correct. So if it's a freaking bird, you can get the feathers really nice by just like holding them, reflecting the light off them, seeing what the colors do.
Do you hunt turkeys as well?
I think I've shot about 3 turkeys. I'm not like super big into it, especially just because where I live, it's actually a draw. Just like in my general area of Idaho, like you can go up north or like over by Pocatello and get an OTC tag. But, I just in the springtime, I'm more so focused on antlers, and so I've
That
done like
season?
I've done a few turkey hunts, but not very many.
That's something I want to try too. Is the shed hunting? I've never done that, and it seems like a lot. It seems like just a lot of fun, like you said, to get out there and
Mhm.
explore new areas. And there was I thought she was. I don't know if you follow her. Her name's Valerie Castilla. She's on Instagram, and I mean, she's like the elk antler whisperer. This woman comes up with the biggest sheds you can imagine down in Arizona, and I don't think she hunts. I think she just shed hunts. And last week she found a mountain lion carcass right next to it. She was looking at a shed, and then there was a mountain lion decomposing. It was still like the skin and everything. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, so stuff like that, you get to
I
see stuff.
Yeah, so there's something pretty similar that I found that was super cool. I was walking down like here in Idaho on this like really steep little draw, and I saw bones. I'm like, ooh, like that always excites me because you might find a dead head. I start walking down, and sure enough, there's like a dead shed buck, and I'm like, well, that kind of sucks, whatever. And then I like look down, and there's another skeleton just like right next to it. I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I look at it and it's a freaking mountain lion. And this mountain lion still had deer hair in her mouth, and they were the same age the skeletons were. So I wonder if she was old too, very old cat. I still have her skull. Her teeth are super worn down. Um, but I think she freaking died killing him. Like it was super crazy. I was like, what? Like that was super nuts.
Did you ever see that photo of the mountain lion? And I think it was a bighorn, and apparently they fell off the cliff onto a road. It's up in Canada. It's pretty
I don't think
wild. They found like the mountain lion. I don't know if it was still attached to had it, but if you Google mountain lion, bighorn sheep, Canada, like death or something, it'll come up, and there people. It was right in the middle. They fell off a cliff. I think
that's
the cat. I think the cat may have jumped, maybe pounced, but yeah, they fell off the cliff and landed on the road. They
wow.
both died, and I think when the horns came off the sheep, and there was
Yeah.
like a thing of blood, but I know they were next to each other. I don't know if the cat was still on it, but it had a bunch of hair in its mouth,
Mhm.
and it
It's
was wild.
it's crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, that is one of the most awesome things of just being out there. You see
Mhm.
things that
Oh yeah.
um is that how sometimes you get inspired for doing pictures is or
Yeah.
drawings is you'll see something that just like, oh my God, and you try and recreate it.
Yeah, a lot of the drawings I've done have been things I've seen or just things like or a place I've been and then I vision like an elk or whatever being there. Um, so I do get a lot of my like inspiration from moments that I've experienced, like especially from when I like the bull I killed last year. I just remember like it was just such a vivid image. I've been walking back up this like side of the hill and I called him and he stops broadside and it's the snow was melting off the trees and he was backlit and you can see the snow dribbling off and you can see his steam and he's kind of just glowing. And I went, Phoop, and then that was an amazing moment. It's like I want to redraw that because that was just super cool. And stuff like that. Like I'll just like kind of capture that image in my head and then like I want to redraw that because that's so cool. And so a lot of my stuff does come from moments like that or just hiking
That
around and something.
that bull you shot, was that in Idaho?
Yeah.
And snow. So was that in September
Yeah.
or was that
So
late?
no, it was actually very beginning of September when that really big storm rolled through the west.
Oh, through this year. Yeah, I was in Utah when that happened.
Yeah.
I got trapped.
Yeah.
The road I was on was one road in, and
Oh no.
all these trees got blown down. And I had one spot I could get phone service, and I hit 911. And then they contacted me because I was up, you know where Randolph, Utah is? It's near Bear Lake, in that
Okay.
area. So
Yeah.
I was hunting south of there. And so I'm up on a mountain and I got a hold, but they was in Ogden. Somehow I pinged to Ogden. So they were putting me in touch with the Ogden sheriff. And anyways, long story short, I said, listen, it's not an emergency. I would just like to be able to get out of here. And they got a hold of the Forest Service, and they came up the next day, and the guy was telling me they'd already cleared out like 30 trees just along. But yeah, I because I was riding my bike to go hunting, and one of those e-bikes, and I had to constantly carry it over falling. And then I decided when I got back to camp to take the road out, and I walked it, and I was like, you got no way. So one thing I've put on my list, because every year I make a packing list on my, what I'm going to bring. I'm
Yeah.
bringing a chainsaw this year. I'm buying a chainsaw, bringing a chainsaw on my hunt.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. That night I was in a tent, and like I actually started hiking back right around like 4 or something when that storm started rolling through. I'm like, this is not going to be very fun. I lucked out, got to my tent right as it started downpouring, freaking lightning left and right. Had one freaking strike about 100 yards out in front of me in the meadow. I was like, well, that's scary. And then all through the night, probably heard four or so trees fall during the night, and just
Yeah.
lightning, thunder. I'm like, this is scary, but I survived. So
Yeah. I didn't even think about it until the next day because I heard the same thing during the night, several trees falling, and not realizing I could be in my camp when these things could crashing on me. But thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like right in the tree line, and there's like a big meadow in front of me, and I'm like, shoot, like this could be fun. No.
Yeah, I was out there, and it was so wild how quick I remember waking up, I was like, oh my God, there was like 6-7 inches of snow on the ground, just like that. And then, man, and the elk that day, I mean, I walked, I found hardly any tracks. It was so weird. I found 3 wallows, and I put cameras on them, and nothing. And I only
See,
heard one bull. I saw a lot of moose tracks though. I didn't see any, that was the first time I'd seen moose tracks up in that area. And I actually saw, it looks like a mother and 2 calves, and in another spot I saw some moose. But this year for the elk was just
that storm
tough.
really started the elk where I was. So that next morning they were talking very, very good.
Really?
Mhm.
Lucky you.
I think I had I had 3 bulls that I was talking with that morning, and got within like 70 or so yards of one in particular. But I could tell he was a young bull, and he just wasn't very confident, and he never stepped out to mess around. And it's really thick too where I was hunting. But yeah, I had calling all morning, and I think right around 9:30 they kind of started chatting up, and that's when I went up in elevation because my thermal started switching, and then I lucked out and freaking got that bull freaking come right in front of me, and shoot him. Got way lucky on that. But yeah, they were talking pretty dang well that morning.
How big was that bull?
He scored 300.75. So it was a pretty nice bull.
Nice. Well, it's meat. Oh, I
Yeah.
love,
And
like, that is the absolute best meat
he was
by
probably the
far.
best tasting elk I've ever had. Like, and he was an older bull too. Like, I was surprised how good he tasted, because like he was at least 6. Like, he was a pretty mature bull. I was freaking thrilled. Like, I was
Yeah.
absolutely.
And when I asked you how big, and you told me he married, and you said the number kind of reluctantly, I don't care. You got meat. That's all that matters.
I don't. That's the thing. I don't care about the score. It's like I just freaking, yeah. The whole elk, the elk.
Yeah.
Like, I love. And I
I was
so me. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go. You were about.
For me personally, like my goal is to shoot a mature animal versus a young one. I don't care how big their antlers are. I just want to shoot a mature animal.
Yeah.
Like I'll shoot a super freaking old ass deer with like just mass and no length. It's just like, yes, like I'll shoot that all day. So I was absolutely thrilled when I like walked up to him and saw he was a mature bull. Like I wasn't really caring about how big he was necessarily on the antlers, but
Yeah, that's all that matters. Like, it's funny, I was watching Destination Elk this year, and I haven't gotten through much, but Corey commented, because the first bull he shot wasn't big, and he said people made comments, and it's like, who can't? It's hard enough to get one as it is. I remember first starting out the elk hunt, and the number one advice I got is shoot the first mature animal you see, because you may never see them again. You know, that
Mhm.
may be the only animal you're going to see. And I mean, if it's so big for you to, I don't know, I think meat tastes a hell of a lot better than antlers. So I will take the meat over the antlers every time.
Oh yeah, and then so my first bull, like he wasn't big at all. He was like just a young, 3-year-old bull, and I freaking that bull means so much to me. Just like a small little 5 point freaking first bull ever. I couldn't have been freaking happier. I freaking bawled my eyes out. It was freaking raining. I'd worked my butt off the whole season. Like, yeah, it's just any elk is
Yeah.
awesome.
I remember my first bull too. And he came, I was so surprised. Also, I look up and this, and he didn't bugle at all. I was cow calling. He came, and I shot him at 27 yards and he dropped, but he didn't die. I don't know if I hit a nerve or something, but he dropped right
Yeah,
there.
crazy.
And I'm waited. I put my watch and I'm looking at the, I go 20 minutes. I'm going to time it. And I waited and it's still breathing. And I'm like, so I had to go up
Shoot.
on top of it and shoot its lungs in order for it to die. And,
Yep.
but
Mhm.
yeah, I'll never forget. I mean, I was so surprised. I'm like, holy shit, this works. I'm doing something right. There's a bull coming right to me. So that
Such
was
an awesome
it.
moment in
Yeah.
that elk. Just so much gratefulness for everything. Gosh, it's just an awesome
And
moment.
I've never hunted mule deer either. Is that, do you just hunt mule deer? You have whitetail too?
We got whitetail. I've never hunted them here. I guess I did like when I first started hunting. I drew like an extra doe tag one year, but I mean it was very short lived. It was in the middle of December and it was freaking 7 degrees outside during the day. I was like, no, I had to
Yeah.
sit in a
Yeah.
tree stand. It wasn't very fun.
That's the
So
way I've hunting. I grew up in upstate New York, and yeah, sitting in a tree stand when it's 1 degree outside and the wind's blowing, you're like, fuck this. This is not
no.
fun at all.
I did
Yeah.
hunt them last year in November though in Wisconsin, and that was super super fun. Um, but those are the only times I've ever hunted the whitetail. Mostly it's mule deer here for me that I'll hunt.
Well, mule deer, I want to do that too because it just seems fun to get up. You're literally chasing after them and stalking. Do you do the spot and stalk?
So the last three bucks that I shot have been with my rifle. Um, but I mean technically spawn stock, yeah. Um, it's so like where I hunt too, like deer hunting with a rifle can be pretty easy or it can be very hard, just like archery. And so where I hunt in particular, it's very hard. It's steep and there's lots of people and you got to work around it and it's freaking and like again, like I want to try to shoot a mature deer, that just makes it 10 times harder. You
Oh
can shoot
yeah.
a few point here and there with does and it's just like I don't know. Um, so I know 2 years ago, I think it was 2019. So I guess, yeah, like about 2 years ago. 2019, I did the general tag, hunted all season, like worked my absolute tail end off. And so there's like about 2 units, I think, that stay open till the 31st of October. And like both of them are just really crappy units, super, super crappy. And so I picked the one and I was hiking 2,000 plus feet a day straight up into the big, like these big basins. It's 5 degrees, freaking 20 plus mile an hour wind chill. Like it was awful. And luckily I ended up just working hard enough and ended up harvesting a very good buck on public land. The last day of the season. Got very lucky. But I love it. Like personally, I'm an archery person, but there's something about rifle hunting mule deer that I just really, really enjoy.
Have you ever tried muzzle loader?
No, I haven't. I've never shot muzzleloader.
That's something I want to get into too. Is the yeah, I'm looking at like I'm gonna build my own,
Oh,
from the ground up and then do all. I've never done it before, but it, I don't know. I just want to try it. I think I like challenges. That's why I like archery so much. And so yeah, I want to give that a shot once because I want to be able. I'm just so excited to be able to hunt so many different animals and
it's pretty
all
great.
year, almost year round. Like behind you, the antelope. I've never hunted antelope, and that's another one I want to. Was a bow or rifle?
So every antelope I've killed has been with my bow, and they've all been spawn stock. So for some reason, antelope they're kind of like my animal, as in a sense of like so my first archery antelope I killed by myself. It was my first solo hunt with my bow, and I was just like super super stoked about it. Again, hunted all season, shot him the freaking last day I was there, and that's actually him right here. He's my first one. Um, And then every year after that, I just go out, I spot and stock, and I'll blow 40 plus stocks a year before I even shoot one. But the thing is, it's like with what I do, I can be out there all season. And so my opportunities and my success like never probably go up because of that, because I'm constantly out there making stocks, whatever. So each one of them have been spot and stock with my bow and been super, super freaking grateful for that. Kind of just like my time to really just spend by myself, get out, hunt all freaking summer until elk rolls around. But they're really, really cool. I love the heck out of them. I feel like I've got them down to a T on a lot of them. Like I really like focusing and learning on their behaviors, and they're freaking crazy animals. Like they're pretty unpredictable. Their eyesight is absolutely insane. Like the things they do, it's just like, what in the world? But I think elk and antelope pronghorn, like I just really love freaking hammering down on how they are and like what they do and just learning the facts on them.
Are antelope are they migratory? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know they are, so
Yeah.
they come to certain areas certain times of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and how about when it's really dry? Do you find a water source? Because I know that's a big deal too, is like hunting over water for antelope.
Yeah, I've done that a few times and I can't stand it because you're in a
Yeah,
blind in like 90
and you're
plus
waiting. Yeah.
and you're like, this is not fun. Like I'd much rather be getting freaking thorns in my hands crawling through the sagebrush just because I'm actually doing something, you know. So um I've done it a few times. Everything I've killed has been spawn stock though. Uh I just don't like the blind hunting, and I think a lot of it is just because it's super hot, first of all, and like I'm more of like if I can be doing something, I want to be doing it. So driving around, glassing them, if I find a good buck, you know, wait for him to bed down and just start, you know, going after him. Um, yeah,
How do you handle, because their eyesight I know is really good. How do you, have you do you single out a solo one? Because a lot of times in the fall they'll have the bucks and they're, or have you because you say you blow a lot
yeah.
of, a lot. Is that where you'll focus on one and sometimes you get so focused and they may have other ones and they'll spot and
Yeah, I have done that where I just like don't see another one and one ends up showing up somewhere. But for the most part, like I will try to single out a buck if I can. But if there's a really good buck and he has like under 5 does, like I will go in there and try and stalk them. And usually, so I'll go in from behind them, like if they're facing one way, like I'll come in from the other. Or if I get really lucky and get them on a hillside, I've had really good luck with having them bed on a hillside. Kind of tore it up the top and I come from the backside and come up and over and actually missed a super good buck last August doing that. I missed like an 80-inch go at 60 yards. Found out it was my sight that had moved, which sucked. But he was same kind of scenario. He had like 3 does, I think. They're all bedded underneath him and he was right above them. And I just came right over that skyline and just seen his horns and got within 60 yards or so. But for the most part, I'm freaking stalking him in the flat sagebrush. And the sagebrush isn't really very, like really tall. Like you'd have to be on the ground. Like if you like get up on your knees, like half view is showing. And so um, I will typically belly crawl for like hundreds of yards before I even get within shooting distance of them. And I always come from behind them, and I'll freaking be on a stalk for multiple hours, just sitting there, kind of waiting if they move or they get up and they bed down again. It just depends, and you kind of just work with what you got.
it's a must. Yeah, like you said, 60 yards. So your shots on a pronghorn are probably pretty far, right? Because
Yeah.
unless the winds and you just happen to surprise them, you're not going to be 10 yards from one and able
No.
to draw.
My closest shot has been 40 yards, which is pretty dang close. And I think my furthest shot on a pronghorn has been 55. For some reason, I've shot them within kind of like that same area. But I've shot at bucks that have been, I think, 70 yards. I think that's the furthest I really care to shoot is about 70. Just because they're so freaking tiny and they move so quick. Like, not unless you get them or they're just chill, whatever. Like, I probably wouldn't take a shot over 70.
Do they vocalize? Do they have any sounds they make?
They do. So I've heard, so the only things I've really heard besides them blowing at you when they like are alarmed, they kind of do like a kind of like that little noise. Um, but I've heard bucks make noises at each other when they're chasing each other during the rut, and it's the strangest thing I have ever heard. And I can't mimic it, but it's kind of like what I just did, but they do it like boom, 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 and they do that when they're chasing another buck, and it's super, super crazy. One thing that I love watching is pronghorn rut. They're super aggressive. They just run each other freaking to death. It's the funnest thing ever. I've had multiple bucks run 20 yards from me, just hauling butt freaking by me, or chasing does right next to me. It's super, super fun. They do kind of vocalize a little bit from what I've seen, but they're not like as vocal per se like a freaking elk, you know. They're typically pretty quiet. They do like to make that blow sound a lot, which is very awful. I hate hearing that noise.
Well, it makes sense too, because they're out in the open, so they can see, their eyesight's so good they
Yeah.
can make visual with each other.
Yep.
See, now you got me excited about trying that too, because that's another. Because then, like you said, you could do that before elk season, you know, because it usually starts. Is that because does their rut start like in early August or something?
It starts late August, so and they peak in September.
Okay.
Kind of like elk, but I think elk will peak a little later in September versus the pronghorn, from what I've noticed. Like, so I think the hardest rut I've seen was probably into the second week of September for pronghorn, and they were just going at it, and it was super fun to watch. But typically you start seeing rut sign like right as you start hunting them in August, and our season opens the 15th. You kind of see bucks starting to, you know, scrape and whatnot, and I think toward the end of August they start collecting does, and they start getting a little more territorial, kind of mess around and doing lots of scrapes. So like white or pronghorn kind of scrape like whitetail, how they like scrape in the same spot and then they pee and crap right there, and they always have their like little piles, and it's really interesting because I know like mule deer kind of scrape, elk they kind of wallow, but pronghorn, it's really cool to kind of seeing how different they are compared to the other animals for the rut. I think it's super fun to watch them.
I didn't know they scraped. That's interesting. So
they scrape a lot.
So and it's very distinctive. So if you're out there in the open, you can tell when they've like dug it, they literally dig the ground up, and so it's dirt and everything. And obviously you like
camera at it. They're like, no, freaking just
nice
out of the ground. So it's pretty fun.
Gosh, you got me like I'm got a smile because these are things I've been wanting to do and I haven't been able to do them. How does so what is your ultimate, like, as far as game animal that you I know it's elk and pronghorn. Is there something that you haven't hunted that's your something you would really want to go after?
Yeah, they're not like, but they're an exotic. See, I really want to go to Hawaii and hunt free range axis.
Axis, yes.
That's always been a super big freaking dream of mine, to go hunt axis in Hawaii, free range, and then also hunting free range tar in New Zealand. I also really want to go do that. Go up in the mountains and just freaking hike to death.
Are those like are those the elk looking or tar? What are they? Tar, you said?
They're like a sheep or a goat.
Okay.
I haven't really like technically looked up their term, but they are like those super shaggy looking animals, and they have like those small like kind of horns the males do, that are like kind of really thick, and they kind of come up like this. They almost look like a lion, but they're like that brown gray color, just how long their fur is. They're super unique, super, super unique. And just where they live is absolutely insane. So I just want to go over there and experience that. And just, they're super cool animals. Really, really cool looking. And yeah, I would freaking love to do that.
What is because I know Hawaii, that'd be a cool hunt to do. Is that expensive hunt to Hawaii? Is it non-resident?
I've heard it's pretty like manageable. Like, it's like you obviously are gonna have to save up a little bit, but it's not like outrageous. Like, it's like doable. And so I think hopefully here in the next couple of years I can go and do that, because that's something I would love to do. And I'm just starting now to like hunt out of state. Like, my first time hunting out of state was last year, which was super fun. So that's
Wisconsin?
Yeah, Wisconsin. And so I'm gonna make it a project to kind of every year go on an out of state hunt or whatever. Just because it's so cool. I just love learning new things and seeing new places and seeing how animals act in different places, because they do. And I've seen that through guiding. Like, It's really interesting to see how elk are in New Mexico versus Utah versus Idaho versus, wherever else, or just like where their terrain is. It's really interesting to just like learn the differences between them.
How did you get to, so, I mean, you haven't been hunting that long. How did you suddenly decide you wanted to get into guiding?
So I actually guided when I was 18 in Stanley, Idaho. So I've been guiding since I was 18. Hunting guiding, I've been guiding for 2 years. So I guided horse rides and pack trips up in Stanley, Idaho. And so all summer, I freaking was at a ranch. I took care of 40 freaking plus horses, took people on rides 3 to 4 times a day in an awesome place, saw elk all the time, everything, pack trips, all that good stuff. And so I've always really enjoyed guiding and taking people out because I love seeing people like enjoy like their time and be happy and freaking just like, wow, this is amazing. Like I've had so many people who have never seen elk or have never even been on a horse. They don't see the stuff I get to see. And it's so cool to see them like just get super excited about it. And so I love helping somebody kill an animal and they've never killed an elk and they're just like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. And I love just sharing that with people. And so I think that's why I love guiding so much. Also, I get to keep learning and hunting throughout the year when I still wouldn't be if I wasn't guiding. And so there's a lot of perks for me personally that I just love about the whole guiding gig. It might not be the best money at times, or it might be kind of hard because it's kind of a commitment. You're there, the whole season, whatever. But I really do enjoy it because I feel like I get more, I guess, advantages out of it versus if I wouldn't. And most of that is just the learning, and then like the sharing that experiences with people. Like I really, really do enjoy that. So.
Do you have, because usually when you think of guides, you think of guys. Do you have, when someone finds out that you're their guide, are they kind of, are you big girl? Like, I mean, tall wise, are you short? How tall are you?
Or
Yeah. So and they see you, you're like, really? You're going to take us out and get an elk? Have you ever had kind of guys kind of razz you and stuff?
luckily, my clients have been freaking awesome people, but like other clients that are at the lodge or whatever, like I've definitely kind of gotten looks or like they don't want to really talk to me because they're like, oh, like I've been around lots of guys who are very much in that, and they're usually older, and like I don't have anything against it, but they typically have that old, like women kind of stay at home kind of thing. And so
Oh yeah, no, I understand. I
yeah.
understand. I've interviewed guys on here that I'm still surprised they kind of have that. It's
Mhm.
like, that's why I want to get more women involved. Like,
And
because you're a big part of the industry now. Let's face it. And that is no, that's really awesome. I didn't grow up with that, and it's not because I had 5 sisters, all older. None of them, not a single one. All my friends, none of their sisters hunted, and the only time there was even a remote closeness was they would take the hunter safety course to get a
Mhm.
tag for the boyfriend or the husband so they could use it. That was it. That was my only experience. And now I'm
Yeah,
seeing with Instagram girls like you and so many women who are involved and take it really serious. You do. I mean, you guide. I mean, that is, like you said, that's a commitment because you don't really get to hunt. You get
no.
to see people hunt, and that must be hard too. It's like, oh, you're taking someone out to spots that you want to be at. And I can imagine but at the same time, you're doing something you enjoy. And that's very cool to see.
Yeah, no, I really do enjoy the heck out of it. And with the clients I've been able to take out have been some freaking awesome people. Like I love meeting people from all sorts of different places. But um yeah, for the most part I've been pretty lucky on guys just, really respecting that I'm just like a woman and like I might not, I might know what I'm doing even though I'm a girl. Like I'm still learning and it's like a freaking process that I won't ever stop learning in. But I'm not gonna go guide without any knowledge or like no, like I know what this bull's gonna do, we should do this, like but no, I love it, I enjoy it, and typically I don't have a lot of problems with guys being all weird about it. I don't let it bother me, I guess, either. Like it's
Yeah.
just what it is. So but,
And New Mexico and Utah, is it through the same outfitter or is it different outfitters?
no, they're both different. I kind of like to try different things to see what I like most or just to see how they run their outfit, whatever. So I kind of bounce around a little. And if I end up finding a place I really like, I'd probably stay with them. Like I thought about going to Wyoming this year to guide. I've been kind of looking at it, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'm still kind of in the air about it. We'll see what happens there. But I actually would really like to start guiding privately. Just to create my own outfit and take people out on elk hunts. Like I might do 3 hunts a year, go to places that I've been and just really, give them that experience where it's just one-on-one, like we're camping, that kind of thing. So I think I might do that in the future, is just do private hunts just through me. So
I mean, what I've seen on your Instagram and your experience, and I don't see why not. I mean, if you posted some of the pictures that you've got and had a website and stuff, I would hire you because you know what you're doing and you've got experience doing it. And obviously you're going to make a little bit more money doing it on your own too.
yeah.
Sure. I would definitely consider it as well. You got the experience. Why not? I
Yeah,
think
so
Wyoming would be cool because you got those wilderness areas that they need a guide.
yeah.
And then you got to contend with the grizzlies and stuff. And that would be, that's another bear I've encountered, Yeah. Tomorrow I'm interviewing, his name is Jamie Jonkel, and he is the bear guy for the state of Montana for their wildlife department. And we're going to talk grizzly bears and stuff tomorrow. So that'll be cool to learn about those animals. And how about moose? Cause I had a girl on here and she hunts in Alaska. And is that something you'd want to? I think that'd be pretty cool because those things are huge. Those
Oh,
Yukon bulls.
I know how huge they are. I've had plenty of run-ins with them, like where I could touch them and they've touched me. So I think I would love to hunt moose. Like I'm putting in this year for Idaho. Hopefully I can draw, like we'll see. But I just think it'd be really fun. First of all, their meat is amazing. I've had moose a few times and I love it. It's super good. Also, like it's just freaking fun. Like I mess with them all the time. Like if I, like I'm out hunting and there's like a bull moose, like, ooh, it's like, all right, I'm gonna mess with them, see how close I can get. I think they're super fun, super cool. But yeah, I'll just put in and see if I draw, and if not, then whatever. But I do think they're really cool, and I would like to hunt those.
Yeah, same here. And they don't seem like you don't really need a call. You can kind of mimic what they do,
Yeah.
like that little moan they do. And
Yeah.
I saw a huge one a long time ago in Wyoming. I mean, he was massive standing next to the side of the road. But those are like Alaskan Canadian ones, the really big, like the giant ones.
Like Yukon
Those are
ones.
the ones. Yeah, those are the ones I want to go after. I remember watching some hunting show and the guys were calling and the thing was, I mean, literally crashing. Just you could hear the branches breaking coming in, and they're on like a logging road and he came bursting out and they got the shot with their bow. Wow, he was huge. That's probably my, like you two, Axis, because I hear Axis meat is really, really tasty.
Yeah, that's
some of the best meat out there.
Yeah.
And plus that spot and stalk, I guess they're kind of similar to antelope. I think they have good eyesight.
Yeah. No, either of those animals I would be thrilled to hunt. So
how about fitness? Because you're always going up the mountain stuff. Or you got a fitness routine you follow?
So typically in the off season, will like go to the gym here and there, but like this year I've been freaking gone so much I haven't been able to make anything like a routine at all. I know a couple years ago, like I was really into it and did lots of weights. But for the most part, I just kind of stay in shape through the hunting, through the hiking, and then my horse as well. I ride a lot, and that's actually a lot more of a fitness thing than people realize. So typically, like I'm usually in pretty good shape, but I will try to go to the gym here and there. I definitely need to work on my freaking diet though. It's not been the best since I've been traveling so much lately.
Yeah, you said you were in Arkansas. Were you bird hunting in Arkansas? Is that what you're doing?
I just got home from snow goose hunting in Arkansas. It was really fun. We didn't shoot a lot, but it was way fun. So
I wonder, did you go with Amy Hall by Amy?
No, I went with one of my friends with Dirty Bird Outfitters.
Okay, yeah, because I did a podcast with her and she's been posting a ton of pictures of snow goose hunting. And I don't know if she was in Arkansas because she lives in Tennessee, but maybe it wasn't, I don't know where it was, but yeah, she's been, and they call them like a dirty bird or something, like they're supposedly not edible, or she was saying.
That's just their name was.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. She was saying like the typical snow goose a lot of people say you don't really want to eat them. They're kind of like a, yeah.
The trash
And,
burgers.
they said more to donate, but she says they taste great. She says she loves hunting them.
No, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't heard any terms on that end. But we would have. I mean, I kind of wish they were here in Idaho because I just don't want to worry about shipping the meat. But I was really curious on how they taste. I've tasted Canadian geese and I really like that. I'm like, I know a lot of people are very like picky with when it comes to waterfowl, but I actually really enjoy waterfowl meat. So
Yeah, it seems like I've never, you know what I really miss are Canadian geese. I just miss Canadian geese because I always remember growing up as a little kid in New York and you'd hear them at night.
mhm,
You'd hear them flying overhead. And then every spring, also you'd see them come back and you knew spring was coming because the geese.
mhm.
And I've always, they're not down here in Texas. And
Yeah.
I just miss Canadian geese, that sound. And
Isn't that funny how sounds will do that? Like for me, it's like meadowlarks and sandhill cranes. Like I absolutely love those sounds. Like it just reminds
yeah,
me of freaking nature in my cabin. It's just yeah.
that's why I love spring. I love hunting in general, but spring turkey is the same. Like
Mm-hmm.
being out there before sunrise and all of a sudden you hear the songbirds coming alive, and then all of a sudden you hear like a
Hmm.
hen or a gobbler, and
Yeah.
that early morning spring, and that's why I miss the upstate New York early springs with the dew on the grass, and
Yeah.
the like a river bottom will have full of fog, and then it's all
Mhm.
clear above, and just that cool damp air, and then you hear the birds gobbling, and then they shut up when like once they fly off the roost, and then the hunt's over. And you're like, oh. But it's the
It's
enjoyment, just the being out there and seeing that
yeah,
sunrise and hearing those birds. It's
a lot of
just
that
like,
stuff.
yeah, it's memorable.
Yeah, like a lot of people will never get to experience like that kind of stuff. And even though it's just like a small thing, it's really not, it's like it's almost for me personally, like I just take in those little moments like so much, just like the birds and like yeah, the sun coming up, like the change in the temperature and the atmosphere, like the smell of sagebrush, like all this stuff, like shed hunting in the spring, there's a different atmosphere versus like hunting in August or freaking September. It's just really, really cool to experience that and like feel it, like really just like feel like things like that. So
You
I love it to death.
it's funny you mentioned like some people don't get to experience. Do you like have you had guys like you say you're dating a guy and they find out you hunt? Do they and they don't like hunting? Because a lot of younger guys aren't really into it, and people take offense. Like some people really take offense to you being a hunter. It's like yet they have zero problems going to the grocery store in the meat section. Yet
I
they'll
know.
judge you. Oh, you kill animals, and it's like they make it sound like really bloodthirsty people, and not there's a purpose to
Yes.
what's going on here.
So I mean, I haven't dated a lot of people, and the people I have dated, like they've hunted or but I think more so my sister, she's very much a lot different than me, and her friends are a lot different. Like they're very much granola, and like if you heard that term, and very
They will. Oh, I've
you
heard it. Trust me.
know,
It's with woke. Are they
yeah.
woke?
And so like I've had plenty of her friends or like my cousin's friends. Like I think it was a few years ago on 4th of July, they were all at the house and like started talking about it. It's like, you like to kill animals? I'm like, not like that. Like,
Yeah.
and I started explaining it all to them. It's actually super cool because a lot of people who say that don't have a clue
Yeah.
like what hunting is. They have no idea. And so it's so fun. Like if they're willing to listen and I like talk to them about it, they're just like, wow, that's actually amazing. And like I actually like get that. Like I still would never do it, but that's like my respect for you is like, a lot higher or whatever. Like I totally get it now or all this stuff. Like they don't know about the population, they don't know about the food, they don't know about the conservation, like they know nothing about it. And so it's really fun to uh, give
Open
them the
their
fact,
eyes.
yes, open their eyes about it. But typically, like I haven't had very many people like really like judge hard, but like they'll give out little comments where they're not really sure. It's just like hunting. But
Yeah.
usually if I talk to them, their like eyes are open about it and they're just like, wow,
Yeah.
that's
And
really
that's
cool.
good that they're receptive instead of just being judgmental and it's black or
Yeah,
white.
yeah,
And there are ones that you can't
yeah,
convince and they're
yeah, there
dead
are.
set. You're a bloodthirsty murderer. And you're just like,
I know.
see, you're wasting your breath. I've had that. And
Like
you're just,
if I could take one of them hunting and really show what it is,
yeah.
well, 1% of it's the killing. Like
Oh yeah. It's
they
the,
don't,
what you're,
they don't
like
understand.
we talked about, the things you get to experience. I had a squirrel run on, I was turkey hunting and I was in camel and a squirrel really ran across my back. That wouldn't happen if I was sitting right here, you know? Just that stuff you get to see. That's the price of admission is worth it just for all that. And yeah, you know, it's great if you can get an animal as well, but the stuff you just see, a
It's
sunrise on a mountain is
mm,
unbeatable.
I remember one time, I think it was the first year I really like focused on hunting elk by myself. And I like hiked up super early one morning. It was super foggy down below, but it was super beautiful. And I get up really high and like it was just a lake of clouds. And I'm just sitting there up top of this mountain and it's like perfect temperature, just like early morning, like the wind is like pretty low and you're just sitting there looking at this lake of clouds and the mountains in the distance. And you're just like, this is, like quite a like spiritual, if that kind of experience. You're
Yeah.
just sitting there and just like no one like knows like yeah, this is up here right now, unless there's somebody
Yeah.
like another hunter that is. And like just this is amazing. Like I don't know, I feel very grateful to live where I do and see the things I see. And um I think that's another reason why I love hunting so much, is it's really like a way I connect deeper with other things. And so it's a really cool thing for me. And I just like, it's a very personal experience usually for me as well. And I really do feel like the hunting is just like a part of who I am now. And it's a really, really cool thing. I don't know. And I love like teaching people about it. And, because I am very passionate about it. And I just love those moments where I'm just up on a mountain and I'm seeing the colors change, like in the leaves, and like just all these amazing experiences. I can't get enough of it. I don't think I ever will. So
Yeah. And the cool thing that you also have the skill is you can also put that down and draw
yeah.
those what you have. So that's very cool as well. Well, listen, I'm really happy you came on and we got to tell you a little story of how you went from nothing to now you're like freaking guiding and doing all these hunts already. And you're like only been hunting for like, well, how
I
many
think
you've only,
I think it's 5 years.
oh my God.
Let's see. I think I started in 16. I think. Yeah, I think 5 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Good for you. And
Thank
then
you.
yeah. So what do you got planned for you put in what apply, you said for moose and what other
Yeah,
you're
so
gonna
I
hunt
put it,
and you said want to do out of state hunts. They're gonna be so you're gonna hunt Idaho. Any states you're gonna hunt besides Idaho this year?
I might hunt. So the out of state hunt I'm thinking of for this year is I might hunt pronghorn in either Montana or South Dakota. And then I actually will probably go to either Wisconsin or Minnesota for whitetail. Actually, not
The big
Minnesota.
ones.
Um, maybe it is. I know Wisconsin will be one of them, and I might go. Why can't I think of where it is? But so there might be 2 hunts or one other whitetail hunt that I'll be doing in the fall. But for this year, like yeah, I put in for moose. I always put in for the super hunts, yeah, in Idaho, which is really fun to put in for. Um, and then I'll be doing my typical September elk, and then I'll be doing late archery mule deer, I think, here in November in Idaho as well. Um, so yeah, those are kind of, actually I might be doing a bear hunt this spring as well. So we'll see kind of what happens there.
Cool. Well, yeah, again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And before you go, like give you your Instagram for your page, your art, all that stuff. Keep all that stuff out so people can find you.
Yeah, so my Instagram is just Lydia Smith 00. My art, Lydia_Smith_art. And then I have my art website, which is just lydiasmithart.com. And then also that brand that I just started, that's ivorypeaksbrand.com. And that'll have
What's
a
that?
bunch of like, so I just started this company where a lot of it is just going to be very informative. I'll do blogs, I'll do videos. I'll have a forum where people can talk and chat, and it's going to be a lot on tips of hunting that I've learned, or like information for people who are non-hunters to like understand what hunting is, to help women, get that confidence and a voice in hunting. It's just a lot of things kind of put into one, and I might even turn that into my outfitting business later down the road. And then I do have like a little apparel line as well where I put my art on on apparel, and I'll sell that as well. So that's Ivory Peaks, and that's something that's new and kind of working on getting
Ivorypeaks.com.
Ivory
Ivorypeaks.com.
Peaks. So ivorypeaksbrand.com, and then it's just Ivory
Ivory.
Peaks on Instagram. Yeah.
Sweet. So Lydia Smith, artist, champion outcaller, bow hunter, pronghorn, all this stuff. Thank you again for coming on, Lydia. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Have a good day.
Hey, you as well.
Bye.